What's up? I'm Christine, and today I'm going over my story, the things that shaped me into who I am today, and how I got into homesteading. So, without further ado, let's get into it. I'd like to start off by saying I am absolutely certain that anyone who does see this video is going to be very surprised by everything that I say. I do have a very unique story, as does everybody, and my life has been a series of lots of ups and downs. I have been through a lot of very difficult things, a lot of huge traumatic challenges, and I have overcome them all and have just become a lot better of a person, a lot stronger through them all. I just want to start off with giving a little bit of insight into my childhood, my upbringing. I did have a pretty good childhood. I have two half brothers and one sister, but I did grow up with one of the half brothers, so he is pretty much just like a regular brother. I did grow up on a small farm out in the country. We had chickens and ducks and horses and geese and rabbits and a pig, deer, amongst lots of other different kinds of animals. So I am Albanian. My mom's side of the family, they're from Macedonia, or Macedonia, as they would say. So we had to hide our pig when they would come to visit, which is kind of funny. They're kind of against that, and we just didn't want to stir things up. So I did grow up, obviously going to an American school, and at a young age I did know Albanian, and my grandparents, they were not happy that we went to an American school. I have a super Albanian sounding last name. I'm not going to say what it is because just for the sake of my safety, and just I don't want to reveal like too much information about myself. My family was really big into fishing, and my dad was big into hunting, and I was used to just the process of butchering our own animals. I've always had a huge love and respect for animals. My family did have multiple gardens, so I was already into gardening even at a young age. I was kind of a tomboy, so I was always outside playing in the dirt and everything, and barefoot, and so I had a pretty good childhood. My mom did have a bit of a drinking problem that actually got worse as time went on, when I got older, about into high school or so. But it was, all in all, it was a good childhood. I actually went through a lot of physical trauma. Like, even as a kid, I had about 4 concussions. And you know how you see those cartoons where a cartoon character gets knocked out and then they see like stars around their head? Well, that actually is pretty accurate. I've had that happen at least twice. They were all accidents. One of them, I flipped over my handlebars and hit my head on the road like really bad. And I actually had food poisoning that same exact day. Another time, I actually got hit in the chin by a metal baseball bat. And that was an accident. That was when I was much younger. And one of my sister's friends was just swinging around the bat and just happened to get me. And I was knocked out from that, and I did see stars. I've had a lot of other instances. I've wrecked dirt bikes, four-wheelers, golf carts, just being crazy and having a little too much fun. I never liked school. I wasn't popular. I did always have friends, but I just didn't like going to school. I always had other things that I wanted to do. Throughout high school, I detasseled every year in the summer. I got into modeling. I modeled for 6 years till I was about 21 or so. I had a boyfriend, a high school sweetheart. We were together for 17 years. I did get into a bit of trouble in middle school and high school and primary school, but I mean, I was a good kid. I was always pretty level-headed and easy to get along with, and I would say pretty mature, pretty ahead of my time. I would say that really things started to pick up and get a little crazy for me when I was probably my early 20s. In my early 20s, I actually broke my arm in 4 places. I completely just severed it, basically. My humerus was completely like not even together anymore. And it wasn't my fault. It was actually someone else's fault. And they didn't intend to actually break my arm, but they did have the intention of like harming me. But anyway, it worked out for me because I ended up having to have 9-hour surgery, and I was getting hospital bills after that. One was 35 grand. Other ones were 1,500, 2,000, 800. So it added up to be probably over $40,000. Now, if you've ever seen that TV show Scarred with Jacoby Shaddix, how they show people getting injured, it was straight off of that show. I mean, My arm was like, it felt like it weighed 80 pounds. It was extremely, extremely painful. I was about 21, and it was like so heavy, and it was just like moving uncontrollably. It was basically like jello, and I had to hold it tightly up against my body because it was just like it was just going to hang. So the only thing holding it together was my skin. So I thought I would throw in a few pictures for a little context. You can see the titanium plate and the 14 screws. The 3 going in the opposite direction are actually where the bone was completely just severed. It was not fun to take care of afterward. And as you can see in the x-rays, I have very small, like skinny bones. I'm very dainty, like even my wrists, like I can take my pinky and my thumb and easily like wrap it around my wrist, you know. So I have very, very dainty limbs. It was a very, very difficult experience to go through. Honestly, for 5 years, I couldn't throw anything like normally. You know, it was just something about the initial, like, it's not the actual motion of throwing, which I can do it now, no problem. Just letting go. Something about that last part of the motion, my body would try to kind of like protect itself. So, ironically, before breaking my arm, I was really getting into working out, doing push ups, and I was doing pretty good. That was a major setback at that time. And so I just wanted to get back to normal. You know, I never did cry about it. It was extremely painful. I didn't have a great support system. I had my boyfriend, and he was the only one who was there to help me out. But even then, he didn't know the extent of like what I was actually going through. Having such a big cast on, and then even going to take a shower, having to have it raised up. I mean, it weighed so much, and it was just extremely difficult. And I learned patience and perseverance, definitely, and also the power of mental strength, for sure. The crazy thing about that surgery is, so it was about 40 grand or more. I actually applied for a medical assistance program for charity, and I got a paper saying it was 100% covered. And the ironic thing about that is they stopped doing charity shortly after that. It was like I had barely made the cut. They were going to be done, and I had just barely made it. So that was a huge load off my mind. But anyway, I was determined to get back to normalcy. So it was about 29 days after the surgery. I wasn't even supposed to be opening cabinets. I was already back to driving my car. It was a stick. The doctor told me, don't even be pulling on anything because the hardware in your arm. And I was supposed to wear a sling, and I didn't. I didn't want to wear it. I didn't want anyone to see me wearing this thing. So I had a titanium plate and 14 screws put in. So you can see in the x-ray where it's at, but if you can kind of see right here, obviously, and then if you look, that's the tip of the plate. So I'm not joking about that, obviously. But I always had a good attitude throughout everything. For some reason, I just always had this like inner knowing that it was going to work out. Throughout everything that I've been through, I had blinders on, as if like I'm just going to make it to the other side, do it, get it done, move on with my life. Because to me, it's just an inconvenience. So I always had a good attitude about it. I ended up having police come to my house and filed a report and did all these things. And I was talking to the state's attorney, and I was going to press charges, and there was just something inside of me that was like, didn't feel good about it, didn't want to go through with it, and so I ended up just letting it go. But I did learn that obviously you could grow through it, or you could let it just break you down. And another thing I learned through it is forgiveness. I think if I would have harbored unforgiveness, I think the process of recovery and just everything would have been a lot more difficult. Everything did work out for me. I always had a good attitude, and that wasn't even the that wasn't even the last thing I went through. So that was my early 20s. I was about 21. Then when I was 22, exactly a year later, I got into a car accident. 29 days after buying my dream car. So I had bought a '05 Mustang GT, and I had it for 29 days and got into an accident, you know, a pretty good accident, and I actually broke my back. I wasn't the one driving, my boyfriend was driving. There's a whole nother story to that one, but basically the car was totaled. There was major frame damage. The control arm on the driver's side completely just snapped. It was a major impact. We basically went around an S-curve and then were airborne and then did a nosedive in a field. And luckily I was wearing my seatbelt. I was completely just bruised all over. They actually did all these measurements, took all these measurements of me in the hospital and fitted me for a brace, which I was not happy. I was honestly very ticked off. I was very fortunate that nothing happened to my arm in that car accident because it was only a year later. I mean, it could have rebroke or it could have been very bad, but I was supposed to wear that brace on my back for, they said, at least 6 months, and that was not okay with me. I'm not like stubborn. I just don't like people telling me, trying to put limits on me. I wore it for about 29, 30 days or so. Then it was the heat of the summer. It was about 94, 95 degrees like every single day in the summer. It was humid. I was miserable wearing that thing. It would just trap so much heat because I was supposed to wear this other like shirt thing underneath it. And you couldn't tell I was wearing it because I could also put another shirt on top of it. But I was supposed to wear it like when I was sleeping, and I just did not want to do it. So I stopped wearing it after about a month or so. I decided, you know what, I'm going to start just strengthening my back, doing whatever I can. So I actually started working out. I got into deadlifting without weights. I got the form down, and then gradually over time I started adding weight. And then it dawned on me that I feel great. My back feels great. I knew that I was in the clear, and actually that's what got me started into fitness training. So it kind of sparked my interest in becoming a personal trainer. And so I did that. I was a personal trainer for about 9-10 years, and now I'm a corrective exercise specialist and a nutrition coach, and other titles that I've actually acquired this year, which I won't get into. And another thing about that whole experience with breaking my back, I had another hefty hospital bill come in, and it was about the same amount as it was for my arm, even though there was no surgery, just for them to basically for observation and just me being at the place and the supplies that they used and whatever. It was about 40 grand. So in total, it was probably about $80,000 for my back and my arm. They had charity for that, and it covered the whole thing. I'm extremely blessed when I look back. I actually looked at these papers, my records, a couple days ago, and I just thought that's wild to go through these things, and then also to be free and clear that I shouldn't have had to pay for anyways, because none of it was my fault. But I did definitely learn a lot. I've always been very tough mentally, and I've known you got to keep a good attitude when you go through things, and that's what got me started on my fitness journey. So that was my early 20s, and then not long after that, I went through another thing. it just goes on and on, right? So pretty much my liver was failing because I was taking this herb called kratom. My boyfriend got introduced to it by a buddy at work. It's an herb that gives you energy, basically, and he introduced it to me, and I thought, wow, that's really cool. And it actually did give me energy, and I didn't know it's actually been banned in certain countries because it could cause problems, basically. But I guess I was one of the people who slipped through the cracks, that my liver couldn't process it or whatever. So I was having extreme abdominal pain. I was in so much pain every day. My skin started turning yellow. My eyes were looking weird. And at that same time, they were doing the fields around my house. And it was just strange timing with everything. And so I went to the doctor, and they said, oh yeah, you got allergies. And I thought, no, I don't. I've never had allergies. What, now suddenly I'm going to have, no. I'm like, you're not going to tell me this. So I did more research into it, and then I found out it's the kratom. So I quit taking that cold turkey. And then every night for a month, my feet were itching. I was itching. I couldn't sleep. I was just going through it. I was completely miserable for at least a month. And the more research I did on it, I learned that actually when you stop taking something like that, it's basically like you're going through withdrawals from like a narcotic. And I just thought, oh my God, this is what some people experience when they stop taking like hard drugs. So I ended up going back to the doctors when they told me, wow, your liver enzymes are extremely elevated. They said, we only see this in patients that have a major drinking problem, and kind of like accused me of drinking. And I basically said, F you. I said, I don't effing drink. I said, I'm not even that kind of person. And I just went off on the nurse. So I told her, I said, I was taking this herb called kratom. It's just basically you mix it, you make it into a tea, you know, it gives you energy. And she's like, I've never heard of that. So the more research I did on it, I learned what was going on. So basically, it was all about my liver not processing it. So I started trying to kind of make myself eat healthier foods. I can't remember what all I did, but I kept going out in the sun and just sitting in the grass in the sun. And then I noticed I started to feel better. Just basically was like believing that I was going to get better, I was going to get through it. And then shortly after, I went back to the doctor and they ran some more tests on me and they said, wow, your enzymes, everything is normal. They said, this is a miracle. I've never seen anything like this. And I basically was like, yeah. I learned a lot through that. And then it wasn't too long after that, I actually went through another thing. So I rolled my ankle when I was running because I love running, and I was running the trail here at my house, you know, because we have trails and whatnot. And I was crossing over to another part of the yard on the property, and I got my foot stuck in a hole, and I rolled my ankle really good. So, anyways, it wouldn't heal no matter what I did, and I went to have it checked out, and this neurosurgeon basically said, you know, you're going to have ankle ligament reconstruction surgery. If you don't, basically you're going to have ankle instability. And so I was just like not happy. I'm like, you're telling me I got to have surgery. I got to go through another surgery. And I didn't tell him. I just was thinking in my head, I went through so much hell going through this other surgery that I am now good again from. And now I got to have another surgery, but this time on my foot, on my ankle. So I wasn't happy about that. Went ahead and had the surgery. I had the same mindset like I've always had when I go through anything, that I'm just gonna do it, get it done, move on, get back to normal, and be better than I was before this happened, right? Because I always am aiming to improve, to learn from it, and get better. So I started making progress after I had the surgery. About 10 days or so after the surgery, I was starting to test the waters a little bit. And it's not normal to just start putting weight on it. You know, they want you to wait a while after. But I started kind of just pushing the envelope a little bit. I started putting a little bit of weight on it here and there. And then before I knew it, I was walking just like lightly on it. I had this big boot thing, and I ended up walking into that same clinic for my next checkup or whatever. And they were basically like, you've got to be kidding me. Like, you're able to walk already? And I said, yeah. And I'm like, but I was doing pretty good. I was feeling very optimistic. And then a few weeks later, I looked down at the scar, the surgical site, and I noticed two little bumps, one on each side of the incision, perfectly lined up with one another. And I thought, something's a little off about that. And I watched it for a couple days, a couple more days, and then it started to get bigger and bigger, and then was doing some weird stuff. And I was like, God dang it, you've got to be kidding me. And I'm very diligent, very, very careful. Like, keep in mind, like I said, I have wrecked dirt bikes, four-wheeler. I've had tons of scrapes, massive like lacerations, all kinds of things. I have had to take care of my skin, and I am amazed that I don't have massive scars like on my legs, like that I have such nice skin. So I've taken very good care of myself. I went into the clinic. They said, you're so lucky that you came in when you did. They basically told me that I had a life-threatening infection. And even the surgeon was kind of trying to be like you didn't take good care of the site. And I was pissed off because I'm like, you don't know what kind of person I am. I have been extremely careful. I have been the most cautious out of anyone you could meet. I am completely on it with everything. He said, we're going to have to do another surgery, irrigation and debridement. And after I woke up from the surgery, the surgeon actually came inside and told me there was a piece of shrapnel that had been left behind from the first surgery. And I thought, yeah, you, like, I knew it wasn't me. So anyway, he was very like solemn about it. Like, he didn't want to tell me. He was very reluctant because I think he was concerned that I was going to try to sue him. Of course, yet again, I had all kinds of people telling me, you know, you need to sue that doctor. You can make so much money. And I just thought, no, like, I am not that kind of person. I don't care about the money. What would that do for me healing? I wasn't angry at the doctor or anything like that. I had the same mindset to just get through it. Totally sketched out after that surgery. I mean, I looked at that scar every single day, all day, wondering, like, is it good? Like, is something gonna happen? They put me on all kinds of meds. I hated taking pills. I'm not the kind of person who wants to take even ibuprofen for a headache, if that tells you anything. I don't like to do anything like that. I don't even watch TV. You know, I don't want to watch TV. I'm very mindful of what I consume, not just food wise, but media wise. So when they told me you got to take these horse pills, I was just like, "Are you serious?" I had to start the process of recovery. You know, walking on my ankle all over again. Actually, at the time that I was recovering from both of these ankle surgeries, my boyfriend had a drinking problem, and is just making my life a living hell. I'm on crutches trying to carry a hose to feed the animals and take care of them and all that, and trying to do everything on my own. And you know, like I said, I've never had good support from anyone. I've had to do everything myself. I don't ever ask for help. I just don't rely on other people. I always know that I have my own back. So I don't rely on anyone else to do things for me. Also, like, you have to be your own best friend, right? You are your own best friend. It wasn't until all these things happened that I realized how much I love gardening and having animals and everything, because those were the only things that actually made me feel good through going through all of these things. Actually, I bought my childhood home when I was about 22, 23, with my boyfriend. If we wouldn't have done that, you know, I wouldn't have gotten into gardening and homesteading and everything. And I wouldn't have realized that those were seeds planted in my heart at a young age that I didn't even know would be my favorite things to do when I'm older. I'm not really sure what else, if there's anything that I forgot or if I should mention, if I failed to mention. I knew this would be a very difficult video to make because it's so multifaceted. There's so many details and so many things that I've been through that I could just talk about for hours on end. I do think you can get through anything if you have the right attitude. Half of the thing is just believing if you can. I've been very, very fortunate to have all the things that I do. I've had multiple gardens, you know, raised beds and um, multiple in-ground gardens. And actually, you know, a really cool thing that I didn't mention is Old Farmer's Almanac is actually going to publish one of my gardens. So I thought that's really cool. You know, I've never had that done before. Having animals and gardening are my two favorite things. And I'm a girl with many passions. I mean, I love drumming. Actually in band in 5th grade all the way through middle school. I was the only female, the only girl drummer. So I do have a PDP drum set. That's another thing. I love canning. If I could have a job like gardening, doing what I love to do, I would be so freaking happy. You know, like if I had like a market garden business or something, I'd love to like grow food to like help people. I have the land for it. I love hard work. I love physical labor. Look at it as I'm blessed to be able to use my body to do all this work. I would say that I have learned a lot through these experiences. You know, there's even more things that I've been through than just what I've mentioned. I've learned patience, I've learned forgiveness, I've learned perseverance, mental strength, I learned gratitude, be grateful. I don't know if I covered everything or not. What else? I mean, I guess if you've watched any of my other videos, you probably figured out that I don't have kids. I suppose with like the right person, I would maybe do that, but I'm pretty content with my life right now, so I'm not really concerned about it. You know, I'm a big planner, but I know that things in life never go as planned. So I kind of just like go with the ebb and flow of life. I'm very open minded, you know, I'm easy to get along with. So I'm not, I've definitely learned the art of patience and gratitude and just being mindful, being present. If there's anything that I missed or I should have covered, or if you have any questions, or if you would like to share your own experiences, let me know in the comments below, and I will see you in the next one.